Hey, what is going on, everybody? Ben Morgan of the Fins Up Network. Good to be back. Let's just say that first and foremost. Sorry to those. I know a lot of you guys have been asking, hey, where's the recap video to the Ravens game? Trying to hear your thoughts and your takeaways from that. Sorry, first and foremost. I really wanted to do a recap video. We did have a family situation come up where I was unable to do a recap video for that one, which quite honestly, maybe a good thing. I didn't have a lot of positives to say regarding that game, but at the same time, maybe a negative because it just had to build up. I didn't have a space to release those thoughts and that energy. So yeah, I don't know. We'll take the good and the bad with that. But hey, let's just put that one behind because we have a lot. We have a lot on the line this week. The season finale at home at the Hard against the Buffalo Bills. So that's what we're talking today. We're previewing that game. We're going to talk top matchups, keys to victory, all that good stuff pertaining to Dolphins and Bills. But before we jump in, taking viewer questions once again for this week's final preview and prediction video. So any questions you have about the team, about the matchup, anything you've got, go ahead, drop them in the comments. We'll get to as many in that final preview and prediction video as possible. But the playoff scenario, I mean, everything's a little bit more simplified this week, right? We talked about all the things that could happen as of last week. Well, this week, it's it. You win, you're the 2 seed. You're either going to play the Jaguars, the Steelers, or the Bills at home. That's the key thing we're playing for right now. The 2 seed and being able to play at home. You lose, you're the 6 seed. You play at Kansas City, who what? On Wednesday, they announced, we're going to be sitting some guys. Patrick Mahomes, anyone else that's viable to that team, crucial to that team, is likely going to be sitting in that game. But yeah, look at the situation we're in. Obviously, not ideal after just having a shot at what? The 1 seed? Less than a week ago at this point in time, we could have been the number 1 seed. Obviously not ideal. Who are we facing? A team on a 4-game win streak, a hot team, Buffalo Bills, who are basically, people were ruling them out. And now it's like, you know what? We're one of the hotter teams. No one wants to face us. They have all the momentum in the world. Obviously not ideal, as well as we just got dismantled. We just got dismantled when everything that we could have asked for in that 1 seed was on the line. But let me add one more thing. Bradley Chubb, didn't get to talk about that. Lost him. Xavier Howard, he's now considered week to week. So now we've got all of our old and existing injuries. Why don't you go ahead and tack on, now that we've lost Jalen Phillips, we've lost Bradley Chubb, we already had Xavier Howard out, we get him back, we lose him, we get Holland back, things happen to X. Yeah, we're really battling through it right now at this point in time. At the end of the day, you still have a chance for the 2 seed. You still have a chance at hosting every single playoff game outside of a game that you'd potentially play against the Baltimore Ravens. So yeah, it is a little bit doom and gloom. I don't have the energy, the excitement that I had going into that Ravens game where I was just like, man, everything's in our hands. We can be the 1 seed. That excitement's kind of gone because of the way we got handled by the Ravens and because of the new injuries. But man, I tell you, going into the season, you got a chance at home against the Bills to win the East and take the 2 seed. More often than not, we're taking that. And it's easy to say that now, but if you look at how the season progressed and how good we look certain weeks, you're like, yeah, it kind of feels like a disappointment. So I get some of that anger and that lack of excitement that maybe some of us feel just knowing what was possible. But now that we're playing for the 2 seed, it's still the 2 seed. It's still Mike McDaniel's second season only. Tua's second year only in this system, and we're still at the opportunity to play for the 2 seed. Pretty damn good. There's a lot to be looking forward to. There's a lot to be excited about in this Sunday's game. Let's talk a little bit about Jerome Baker real quick, because on Wednesday, we also learned that he is getting the designation to return from IR. Team now officially has 21 days to activate him to the active roster. Like we talked about, though, he's getting our team's last IR activation spot, which means, like we had talked about, no Isaiah Wynn, no Eric Ezukama, no Savon Ahmed, nothing like that. Jerome Baker is going to end up getting it. That is it. We have used all of them. So we'll see how things play out for this Sunday against the Bills. He's not been moved, as of recording this video, to the active roster yet. He's just been designated to return, which opens that 21-day window. He did get in a limited participation in Wednesday's practice. We'll talk more injury news in that final preview and prediction video. Of note from Wednesday, no Xavier Howard, no Raheem Mostert, no Jalen Waddle. We all kind of could have seen that coming, but like I said, we'll talk more injuries on that final video this week. Let's talk some keys to victory. I got 3 specific keys that I want to touch on in today's video. The first one being forcing Josh Allen into finally committing some damn turnovers against the Miami Dolphins. 11 regular season starts in his career. He is 9-2. He has 31 touchdown passes, 5 rushing touchdowns. He has been named the AFC Offensive Player of the Week in games that he's played the Dolphins 5 times. Do the math on that. 5 out of 11 times he's played the Dolphins in the regular season. He has been named the conference's Player of the Week. This guy is a first ballot Hall of Famer if he could just play the Miami Dolphins every time. And guess who that sucks for? Us, these guys. Look at the negative side. He's thrown just negative for him, positive for us. He's thrown just 5 interceptions in those 11 games. Just 5 interceptions, and 3 of those came in his first ever 2 starts against us back in 2018. So he's thrown 3 interceptions in his first 2 starts. In the 9 games since, he's thrown 2 regular season games. Let's put that out there. And he's been sacked just 16 times. Now, if you talk about the Bills, if you look at what the Bills got going right now, a lot of their fans they're happy that they're on this win streak, but they're a little bit panicked because Josh Allen hasn't looked like your prototypical Josh Allen. Last week against the Patriots, 50% of his passes, 15 of 30, 169 yards, no passing touchdowns, and an interception. But man, does he always seem to turn it on when it matters most. Like I said, against us. If you extrapolated his numbers, he's got 11 career regular season games. If you extrapolate that over into 17 games, it's a surefire MVP type of season. So yeah, what the header says there. Let's force some turnovers. Let's get some extra possessions in this game. Let's cool his hot streak against our defense. And you would say he's due for a dud. Unfortunately, that's just really not how things work in the NFL. You've got to earn it. You've got to be able to force this guy into committing some turnovers. Also, let's not lose sight of James Cook. Now, his production has, I would say, quieted the last couple of weeks, but the 2 previous weeks before these last 2 weeks, like I said, the Bills are on a 4-game winning streak, 141 total yards in a 3-point win against the Chiefs. And then when they beat the Cowboys by 21 points, really that kind of that momentum changing game that they had. James Cook totaled 221 yards in that game, was the MVP of that game. Now, if you remember, they fired their offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey, earlier in the season. New offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, he has absolutely put an emphasis on getting a guy like James Cook involved. And what did we just see last week against the Ravens? They're a little bit, I don't want to say completely depleted, but they lost their guy in J.K. Dobbins, and they lost Keaton Mitchell, and they're down to Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. But it was Justice Hill who just absolutely tore us up on the ground, through the air. Similar to how the Bills use a guy like James Cook. So you cannot allow a repeat performance against one of these quicker scat back type of guys, young guys, quick guys. You need to be able to bottle him up. Another key to victory you've got to create mismatches for our guy, for our rookie, for our speedster, for our playmaker. Week 3 when we played the Bills, 8 carries, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns. He caught 3 of 5 targets for 19 more yards. Now, last week, when Raheem Mostert was out against the Ravens, and you look at Raheem Mostert, like I said, we'll talk more injuries throughout the week here. I'm guessing at best he carries a questionable tag into the game, so we're not going to be able to rely on him, at least as of Wednesday. But Achane goes 14 carries, 107 yards. He caught 4 of 5 targets for 30 yards and a touchdown. So without Mostert, you find ways to get Devon Achane the ball. And we actually saw Mike McDaniel kind of making a concentrated effort to do that against the Ravens. If you got to watch Hard Knocks, he had made a comment, or one of the players had made a comment about Mike McDaniel saying, first play from scrimmage is going for 44. Well, it was 23 on a quick pass to who? It was Devon Achane. They were trying to get him the ball early, get him the ball early in space, and let him create. And he was. And I think the only reason we didn't get more touches and more production from Achane, obviously, because of the game, because of the score, because of the game flow, everything like that. It's not like we completely abandoned the run game, but at the end of the day, the Ravens, let's just say they didn't necessarily need to give up any. They weren't really worried about giving anything up at that point in time when you're playing with a 20-plus point lead. regardless, he is a guy that we need to get the ball to. We need to try to get chunk yardage plays from. We've been okay at being able to kind of like trickle down the field and get red zone touches, but that's where their issues start coming up when we get down into the red zone, inside the 10-yard line. We got to get some long ones. We got to get some chunk yardage plays. Let's get some long touchdowns, hopefully, in this game, especially with Mostert, Waddle being question marks at best going into this one. You have to make the Buffalo Bills defense fear more than just Tyreek Hill, who is also banged up. The top matchup that I'm going to watch this game, and obviously we're not going to see this transpire on the field, but what Vic Fangio decides to do in this game against Stephon Diggs is what I'm looking for. Because in that week 4 loss that we had to the Bills, lost by 28, 48-20 after we had just put up 70 against the Broncos. Stephon Diggs does what Stephon Diggs does to us sometimes. 6 catches, 120 yards, 3 touchdowns. Now, obviously, no Jalen Ramsey at that time. And because of that, we saw Kader Kohou playing a little bit more boundary work. But that game solidified what a lot of us already thought, where, yeah, Kohou is serviceable sometimes at the boundary, but you want to keep him at slot corner. That game was the absolute solidification of that feeling. So we head into this game. Xavier Howard is slapped with what? Being week to week. So I'm not really counting on him in here. So does Vic Fangio keep Jalen Ramsey to a side? And then on the other boundary, whatever, it's Eli Apple, who is probably the likely candidate based on the team's previous history. Does he keep Eli Apple on the other side? Or is he going to do what he did last time Xavier Howard missed a game, where he let Jalen Ramsey go out there and shadow a guy? It was against the Jets. It was against Garrett Wilson. We talked about this. The Jets aren't an offensive juggernaut. We played them when they had Tim Boyle and then Zach Wilson, and then Zach Wilson got hurt, Trevor Siemian. We're not comparing apples to apples here. Josh Allen is in a whole different stratosphere compared to those quarterbacks. But when he let Jalen Ramsey shadow, it worked. And that's quite honestly what leads to my take. You shadow Stephon Diggs with Jalen Ramsey. That is just, that's complete speculation, but it's my take. Now, you look back at the history of Jalen Ramsey versus Stephon Diggs. He hasn't always locked him down. Stephon Diggs has quite a few wins in this matchup, but it's the best chance we got. You in this game, in week 18, with the number 2 seed on the line, you go best on best. That's absolutely what you do. You keep Ramsey glued to Stephon Diggs. You let Eli Apple or whoever else they put out at boundary cornerback. You let Kader Kohou go into your slot. You let those guys handle the likes of what? Gabe Davis, Khalil Shakir, guys that are fine, but they're not anywhere. Like I said, I've used the word stratosphere now twice in this video, but they're not in the same stratosphere as a guy like Stephon Diggs. So that is what I've got, Dolphins fans. Like I said, sorry for no Ravens recap this week, but hopefully everything is settled down now a little bit from here on out. But like I said, let's get those viewer questions submitted for this week's final preview prediction video. We'll get to as many as possible. That is my time for today, though, Dolphins fans. And until next time, fins up.